Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm reviewing Friends. So, a little backstory. Growing up, I would watch like King of Queens and Seinfeld and Home Improvement, stuff like that. Never watched Friends. And just binge watched over the course of the past couple of months all 10 seasons with my girlfriend, who's a huge fan of Friends. We watched it on HBO Max. I knew things about Friends, and I knew some particular things because they had been spoiled for me, which, not gonna lie, it's almost a 30-year-old show from the start of it. So I'm like, not surprised some of these things got spoiled for me. But it's like the iconic sitcom. And watching it now, I still had a lot of fun with it. And I know some people say that it's harder to watch in like 2021, I guess, at this point. But it's interesting because like it's not the most diverse show. It's not the most relatable in terms of like most of these characters, most of them have really nice paying jobs, and it's like a lot of like white people problems, and like they don't have to worry about making money, but they do have some of the characters do go through that. Probably Joey and Rachel for the most part. Joey because of his acting, but then like honestly the majority of the series he was in movies and he was on a soap opera. Like a really successful soap opera. So you have this group of characters, which I think the biggest thing is you have to talk about the characters. And you have Monica, played by Courtney Cox, who's the neurotic, just like everything has to be organized character, and she's probably the most straight-laced of all the group. And then you have Rachel, who's like starts off as like the spoiled brat, and she needs to get used to being around like not rich people. And then you have, played by Jennifer Aniston, then you have Phoebe, played by Lisa Kudrow, who's like the wild card of the show. Phoebe is the most interesting character on this show and is such a blast. She's sweet, she's funny, she's tough, she's like, you don't want to mess with Phoebe. She's sexy, she's weird, and all thrown together, and Lisa Kudrow does such an amazing job of realizing this character. Then you have the self-depreciating humor and awkward social skills of Chandler, played by Matthew Perry, which had some drug problems, and you can tell like he's all over the place for some of these seasons. Then you have Joey, Matt LeBlanc, who's honestly my favorite character, and he's just a lovable lug. He's pretty stupid. How you doing? And he just gets with the ladies and stuff like that. And I also relate to the Italian aspect of his character and him being from like a traditional Italian family. And he eats, and Joey doesn't share his food. And then you have Ross. I hate Ross. And that's like watching this show. I feel like Ross is supposed to be the heart of the show and like the nice guy that just keeps getting shit on and you want him to do well. But the thing is, he's a jerk so many times and rubs things in people's faces. He just whines about everything, and he is supposed to be the one you're rooting for, but the character tries so hard to make you not like him. And I don't like him. But David Schwimmer does give a really committed performance. He's all in. So like I don't blame him. I just feel like the writing for that character. And here's the thing, especially like seasons 8, 9, 10, many of the characters just get flanderized and are just over the top. Like Monica gets grating and annoying towards the end of the show, and Ross just, well, I didn't like Ross most of the series to begin with. Chandler is just also gets to the point where it's just like he's so obnoxious in what he does as a character, and like him and Monica just get a little unbearable towards the end. But for me, like Joey and Phoebe are still the consistent most fun parts of the show, and I absolutely love them. And I laugh a lot. I laughed a lot watching the show. There's so many great celebrity cameos in this show. And like Bruce Willis was in like 5 episodes, and Tom Selleck, Richard, favorite side character, and like should have been with Monica at the end. But I don't know how many of you agree with that, but she chose Richard because like Tom Selleck is just like such a classy character, and I just love Richard. And he pops up in the show a couple of different times, and like this was a phenomenon. And like the fact that all these, like, there's just a random cold open with Robin Williams and Billy Crystal. I'm just like, what's going on here? Like, that's how big this show was. And it's so interesting watching now and seeing all these really famous people. And some of them is some of their earliest roles in just like these tiny parts, like Jim Rash and Craig Robinson. Danny DeVito pops up in one of the more interesting performances in this show. Crazy characters. And you have all of this, and it really defined like modern sitcoms. It does get repetitive after a while, but in general, but Friends always found new ways to keep things fresh, and mostly it was because they had new relationships or new things popped up in their life. There always seemed to be progressing. One thing is weird though, it's like a lot of these relationships just end so abruptly. And it's just like this big person's like, oh, I'm so in love with this person, then bam, 2 episodes later, bye. I'm just like, okay. And I guess it feels shorter because I'm binge watching it. I'm just like, in one night, this whole entire relationship played out. I'm just like, oh, and then they're gone. In real life, like watching this live, it would have been over a couple of weeks and just been, would have felt longer, I guess. And that's a tricky thing too. They have a lot of fun running gags like how Chandler hates Thanksgiving, and there's so many quotable lines and all the memes, the Joey memes, the meme or the, oh, him trying to learn French, absolutely hilarious meme where it's like the panels of Phoebe and him trying to like get something right. Fantastic. And this show is so much fun. It is a big undertaking though. It's 10 seasons and like 235 episodes, but I think it was worth it. It definitely got harder towards the end, and it started losing its way a bit, I felt like. And some of the choices with how some of the characters wound up with who they wound up wasn't the hugest fan of. Honestly, most of them ended up with people that were not my first pick for them to end up with. But you know what? It is what it is because I didn't write the show. But in the end, I think Friends is definitely worth checking out. It's on HBO Max now, and even if it's just something to watch in the background, it's a legendary sitcom, and it is for a reason. But those are all of my random thoughts on Friends. I'd love to chat about this because I feel like this has plenty of things to chat about. So leave some comments below, and let's talk some movies and TV, because this is a TV show. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.